They are a unique genetic population, and they range across the international. Historically, this population has allowed Kenya and Tanzania to work together and co-manage this landscape. But last year, things changed and 5 permits were issued. Today, you're going to hear from scientists who work and have an enormous body of knowledge from the advocacy ecosystem. These are the most studied in the world. The research has been going on for 51 years. That is not even the lifetime of them, but yet it's the longest research in the world. We're going to hear from Joyce Poole, who is a scientist who studies in particular the bull, who will tell us more about why it is so important that we protect these particular elements. We are also going to hear from Festus Ifwaki. He's a researcher, a senior scientist from Save the Elephants, who works on radio tracking developments to tell us more about how we know where these elephants range, and if we're to protect them, what landscape are we talking about? How big is this area and where is it? Next, we're going to hear from Tiasa Mtuke. Tiasa is working with Wildlife Direct. She is a youth, so she's here to represent the youth, especially because it's International Youth Day. And she's been doing a campaign to mobilize the youth to look into these issues as well. And I'm going to close by telling you more about what we do as Kenyans to mobilize our own government, to get our president to engage with his counterpart in Tanzania, to educate the public, and to seek a long-lasting solution for the permanent protection of this particular population. So from here, I'm going to move directly on to Joyce Poole. Chris, is Joyce available? And I really want to thank the speakers who have agreed to come here today. We will be showing you some clips that were filmed in Amboseli recently, where we interviewed members of the community, so you'll get to hear from them why they are very concerned about this. Okay, so that computer, can it be brought close to the podium so that we can hear her on the speakers? Or maybe we will wait, and how come we need to see Joyce on the screen? Is it possible? Joyce, sorry Joyce, just give us a minute. Okay, there's Joyce. Hi Joyce. Great, so thank you to Joyce for coming in all the way from Norway. Okay, we continue. Okay, we can't hear you very well. Joyce, just one moment. Sorry, guys. There's no audio. Can you everybody hear her well enough or no? Can you hear her? I can hear her. Just 1 second, Joyce. Joyce, just try again. Maybe try without the earphones. Let's see if that works. Is that better? Oh, now you can hear. Named after father. He was very, very habituated to people. That was in the mid 1960s. And at that time, there was turkey hunting also in Kenya. And Amboseli was a game reserve. And Odinga used to wander, of course, away from the swamps and out of the and there was an unscrupulous hunter who waited for him, and in fact may have even pushed him into the hunting block where he shot him. And there was such an outcry, even at that time, against what the hunter had done, because these elephants were so habituated. The absolute elephants would have been. And all hunters, the hunter lost his license. And at that point, there was a sort of a gentleman's agreement that was started, which was that they would not hunt elephants around that, of the Amboseli population around the boundary. And that persisted until before for very well males across the border of Tanzania, and all of them were elephant alliance. Back up to say that, of course, soon after the incident with Odinga, Kenya banned trophy hunting, but it has continued in Tanzania. So, but and in 1994, those elephants were killed, but they were really the only ones in this long period to be shot by trophy hunters until last year. And I want to say also that the largest tusk ever reported came from the Amboseli population. They were an elephant shot in the 1800s in the slopes of Kilimanjaro, and his tusks are held now in the British Museum. So Amboseli really has genetically
is predisposed to have these very, very long tongues. The research project that tough shape and size really inherited. It's elephants that come from the same family tend to have similar shape and size and tough. So, but the thing is that over centuries, elephants with large tusks have either been hunted by trophy hunters or people collecting ivory or during the heavy poaching that has gone on in recent years. And so there are very few populations in the continent with elephants with large tusks. And Amoseli is probably has highest proportion of males with large tusks. So it makes this population really, really unique. The other reason that this population is unique and extremely special is that it has been studied. It is the longest study, as I think Paul mentioned, the longest study of elephants, continuous study across the world, and it reached 52 years in September, when Cynthia Mall started the Amoseli Elephant Research Project. Soon afterwards, now run my own organization. Voice is good, but for many years I worked with the Research Project. It started as a 19-year-old in 1975. And together, Cynthia and I discovered that males come into a period of what we call must. It's a period of heightened reproductive and sexual and aggressive activity among males who are like over 30 years old. So we have to remember elephants are really long-lived animals like us. And males don't start really breeding until they're in their mid-30s. They may try, but they can't compete successfully with other males for access to reproductive females. And this is because, unlike most other mammals, elephants continue to grow through most of their lives. So males get bigger and bigger and bigger and more competitive as they get older. And indeed, their tusks continue to grow throughout them. So it's the oldest male. We know this from our observations as well as from genetic studies, or getting feedback on something happens with the recorder. But anyway, we know that it's the oldest male who father the most offspring. And so it's really important. If we're going to keep, if we want to have large tusks, and the elephants with large tusks are really important in terms of tourism, income for the country and for communities. So if we want these large tusked males, then we need to, we need to protect them. We need to allow them to live out their lives into old age. Yes, I'm trying to think. I should mention, because Cynthia is speaking, the Amoseli project has monitored individual elephants over all these 52 years. They hold a database of 4,000 individual elephants. Every elephant is known by name. The birth and death of everyone is recorded. There are currently some 2,000 elephants alive today, ranging over a huge area that we'll speak more about, but it is enormous, and they have always been a cross-border population. So the point is that this population is really unique. It's unique in the world because of the long study, because they are genetically predisposed to have these very large tusks, because they're so habituated, and because they have been protected for such a long time, they also have an intact or almost intact age structure. And most of what we have learned about elephants has come from this unique and very special population. One final point is that the hunters are, of course, targeted. So, yeah, so, you know, we really need to stop this, because if with quota, to imagine that was for I think the quota of 5 was for the eastern side of northern Tanzania, and all 5 were then taken from this cross-border population. So it's completely unsustainable. It's having an enormous impact on the social structure of the Amazonian population, and it's these older males who basically coordinate the movement and are role models to younger males. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. I hope you can stay on the line so that at question time we can come back to you. Perfect. I hope it was clear enough for everyone. I could hear everything. I hope everyone could hear. Joyce makes some really important points, and I'm not sure if it comes out really clear. There are only about 10 of these super tuskers left in this population. 5 were already killed in the last 8 months. And this is because of a concessionaire in an area called Nduimet, who has a hunting company called Kilombero North, who has used their hunting permits to take elephants out from this particular. And the Tanzanian government normally makes announcements about their quotas, and we are expecting that an announcement will be made any day on the next series of quotas. So this is why this is so urgent and imminent, that if another 5 elephants taken out, we could see the loss of 50% of the remaining super tuskers. So I'd like to move next to Festus Ihwagi from Save the Elephants to come and talk to us about the radio tracking and the movements of these elephants. So I want you to understand the cross-border nature or the transboundary nature of this population. Festus. Thank you. Thanks, Joyce.
Morning, everyone. Thanks a lot, Ola, for arranging for this discussion. And my background, as you said, is ecology and GPS tracking of elephants. Just a few highlights on aspects, of elephants. And like Joyce said, we are lucky to have one of the longest standing populations of elephants in Africa. That's the Boseri elephants. Started for about 51 years, and I know largely focusing on the behavior ecology breeding. It's not until about 35 years that GPS tracking began in earnest, and over time we are tracking many populations, and including the Savo and the Boseri population. GPS tracking, what does it entail? We usually put GPS collars on specific selected individual elephants. For example, the iconic elephants we are mentioning here, the matriarchs of various families. And the GPS collars give us hourly fixes every hour until the collar dies, which could be maybe in 2 to 3 years, which means there are some elephants whose data we have accumulated for even 6 years, whether it's in Amboseli or elsewhere. And GPS tracking data gives us very good insights. We can see the core home ranges of the elephants as well as the dispersal areas. For this particular population in Amboseli, where we know that the bulk of the core home range of the elephants is on the Kenyan side, we also do acknowledge the other aspect of the home range is the dispersal area, and the dispersal areas can be quite huge. If the dispersal area expands further deep into Tanzania, Just to give you a scale of how elephants change their range. What we have seen in some of the longest tracked elephants, and especially the bulls, there's something we calculate called the range asymptote. Range asymptote means every year you calculate the home range of that elephant since you started tracking. You continue adding cumulatively every year. With the elephants, it's very interesting. You can study one elephant, and then after 5-6 years, everything is stable, no more range increment. But then a new extension of the home range. We are still understanding how the elephants go. We don't even want to imagine that we know everything about where they go. But some insights from the different information we have. As part of this tracking work, on the screen here you see data from the Amboseli elephants, and you see them moving from Tanzania, from Kenya into Tanzania, deep into Tanzania. I think actually almost close to Arusha National Park, further down there. And some of the insights we get from such kind of movements is how elephants respond to risk. And it's on purpose that I'm talking about risk, because from an elephant point of view, hunting doesn't make any difference from any other form of shooting by humans. So hunting, whether legal or illegal, affects the elephant's movement ecology. And we have seen from past studies that elephants do actually change their behavior at short time spans and long time spans, including, for example, changing whether it be by the day or by the night, the directly measured levels of illegal hunting or legal hunting or in other way. And this is not something new to science today, because at least we know it's been documented. This issue of cross-border conservation has been of concern for some time. And I'm going to be very specific on a request I got from Tanzania authorities. In the year 2012, I received a call from, it was actually an email, from an assistant director at Tanzania National Parks Authority. And he asked me one question. Festus, we have seen very few elephants with tusks of late in Tanzania. What's happening in northern Tanzania? Any explanation? And I just told him, well, there are two possible explanations. We will not be able to say the exact one. One, we have just come up from a poaching crisis. The years 2009, 10, up to 12 were a crisis year for the elephants. And Africa lost, in some populations, even up to 60%. Number two, Tanzania has a hunting policy, legal hunting. Could it also be that some of these big tuskers have been hunted? And we also know that they are origins. And this one triggered a discussion. In the year 2013, the first meeting I attended in Arusha, bringing together conservationists from both sides of the country, government and non-government. We met in Arusha and we discussed, the first time in my working years, a cross-border conservation concept. How can we protect these cross-border elephants? At the time, the focus was not just Amboseli alone. It was actually all the cross-border ecosystems, from Mara all the way down. And the meeting was very well received. The discussions were very well acknowledged that there is need for cooperation. However, that nothing much was done after that. As late as last week, the second meeting happened in Arusha. I just come from Arusha last week. Again, a meeting bringing together government agencies from either sides, Tanzania Wildlife Research Institute, Tanzania National Parks Authority, from this side, Kenya Wildlife Service, Wildlife Research and Training Institute, NGOs, and the understanding was very clear. There is need for a cross-border conservation initiatives, not just for elephants. Back in the year 2013, during the meeting, I was tasked at collecting the available tracking data sets from Kenyan side, from Tanzanian side, and it was very clear from the few data sets that we had there, there was movement of elephants from Amboseli ecosystem down to Tanzania, and vice versa. We had some data sets from Tanzania populations that also do come into the country. We presented the same approach this time around, more than 10 years later, but with a lot more data sets. And what was quite in agreement by everyone is that we need to have a cross-border protection framework. The focus of the meeting last week was on connectivity. conserving the corridors. We would like to push it further, not just the corridors, but the actual dispersal areas. Like I said, a core area is where an elephant could spend maybe 50, 60% of its time, but this dispersal area is even as equally important. Once in a while, the elephants move from one core area to another one. Some few elephants could have maybe even 2 core areas, but mostly it's one. But these dispersal areas are very important. As we celebrate the World Elephant Day, we would like to come up with a suggestion or a proposal that we need to use data, a data-driven approach, to delineate the range of the cross-border populations, and specifically for the Amboseli. And we would like to urge or encourage our president to discuss with the counterpart. Our president, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, is himself a zoologist. He is a conservation biologist. We would like to urge him to discuss and help us articulate our concerns to the counterpart on the Tanzanian side. Her Excellency Samia Suluhu. It all calls for diplomatic engagements. Tanzania is a sovereign state. They do have their hunting policy. They may not have to overhaul it immediately, but for the interest of the cross-border conservation initiatives, it would be very good if our president engaged the counterpart in Tanzania and we come up with an arrangement whereby no more hunting or hunting arrangements are allowed within the defined range. Once we do that delineation, I think it would be on a platform to a harmonious cross-border protection of the elephants. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Festus. Festus is a senior research scientist at Save the Elephants, and we can make sure that you have his contacts because he really understands. And he's just come back from Tanzania where they had some informal conversations about this issue. We have been talking to Kenyans from the Kenyan side and Tanzanians on the Tanzanian side, and you'll find that Kenyans are much more open and are discussing it. Tanzanians have not been publicly speaking out, but privately they're telling us that they are also unhappy about what's been happening. And it's not just the scientists, it includes the hunters. Many hunters believe that the hunting that is being done in this particular block is unethical because these elephants are so well habituated. Shooting an elephant that is that habituated is like shooting your pet dog. These elephants will walk right up to you. They have no fear of human beings. So this is considered unethical among hunters, and even within the professional hunting fraternity in Tanzania, there have been letters saying that this should be stopped, and the agreements that have been upheld for nearly 50 years should be revived. So we're talking of legal mandate through the leadership of our countries, but at the same time also, we need the hunting industry to also make decisions. I'd like to move on to Tiasa Motunke. Tiasa is a young Kenyan who has been doing a campaign to raise awareness among the youth about this challenge facing the elephants. This is not her first time to be mobilizing or doing a campaign for conservation, and she will tell you about her work specifically on the elephants. Tiasa. And I'd like to apologize. We did have some short videos from the field, but unfortunately, apparently the sound system is not working well. So we will make sure you have access to them all on, through a Dropbox or something, and you can use them as you wish. Thanks.
Morning, everybody. Happy World Elephant Day and Happy Youth Day. Yes, just want to say thank you all for coming here to shed light on why it's so important to protect our super tuskers. As we said, I am Tiasa Motunke. I am the founder of a movement called Teens for Wildlife, which is a space for African youth to come together to shed light on the importance of wildlife, to share our love and value, because I believe once you learn, you value, and once you value, you love, and you'll do anything to protect what you love. When it comes to the super tuskers, I decided to start a campaign called #WorthMoreAlive to shed light on just the importance of these super tuskers play in the ecosystem, to the communities, to the culture in Amboseli, as well as in Tanzania. And the goal was to raise awareness about trophy hunting and why we should put an end to it when it comes to this region for the cross-border elephants. What I was able to find out is many young people actually do love and care for our wildlife. Many people feel a strong connection to elephants. And this is rooted in the stories that we're telling, the cultural aspect. Many young people said, let's stop. Let's ban trophy hunting in this region to protect the cross-border elephants. Through the campaign, I was able to interview elephant experts, community members, and tour guides to just shed light on what the value of the elephants mean to them, why they should protect them. And it was super emotional to hear each and every one of them share. One of the things that stood out to me was they kept saying, elephants are like human beings. They feel, they moan, they grieve. There's so much love when it comes to the families in each and every elephant family. When I was talking to some of the scientists from Amboseli Trust for Elephants, they highlighted how families play such a big role when it comes to these super tuskers, having grown up in a family and then separate from and go into a battle herd and then become independent bulls. This is how they're crossing over to Tanzania and back into Kenya. But they play a role in teaching the other elephants, the other bulls, how to live, how to continue. Elephants live up to 70 years. So there's a lot of culture and knowledge that's passed down to the younger generation of elephant bulls. The communities, the Maasai people, they say the first elephant was a little girl. This was so beautiful to me because she said, I was able to interview Mr. Benson Mayoli from Amboseli. He grew up there, and he shared that, when elephants, there was a girl, and when she was getting ready to go to marry off with another family, and she turned back. There's a rule that you're not meant to turn back to see your family in the Maasai culture when you're moving to marry off to a different family. But she turned back, and she turned out to be such a beautiful elephant. And so from that, the elephants, Maasai have such a strong connection to elephants. They believe that you shouldn't kill them. Elephants deserve to die a natural death. Let nature take its part and let we human beings be the ones to protect them. And when it comes to young people, I always say, as we've learned, we only have 10 super tusker elephants left in the Amboseli population. We cannot be the generation that allows these super tuskers to die. We must be the generation that comes together to say we have to protect them, that comes together and say we have to save them. On this Elephant Day, we're standing as young people saying, let these super tuskers live because they are worth more alive. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Tiasa. I'm just going to summarize and give you the actions that we are now taking today on World Elephant Day. First, to say that the responsibility of these elephants do not depend entirely on Tanzania alone, where the hunting is taking place. These are a transboundary population. Both the President of Tanzania and the President of Kenya have a very important role and duty of care to protect these elephants. We've also run a campaign on the Avaz platform. I know there are lots of pictures all around the room, but this is the one I want everyone to see. Over 500,000 signatures, which signifies this is bigger than Kenya, this is bigger than Tanzania's. It's actually a global issue. Why? Because elephants cannot speak for themselves. We, as people of the world, have to speak for these elephants. They cannot go to court, they cannot go to the East African court, they cannot go to CITES or any international convention. They require us. So this is why we are doing it. Our goal is to take the petition of 500,000 plus signatures. We're going to send it to the Tanzanian president herself. We hope that it impacts her and leads her to make the right decision on the next round of quotas that are going to be issued. And we're also going to bring this issue to the attention of His Excellency President William Ruto. We've already written to the Cabinet Secretary, who has just been appointed, Rebecca Miano, and informed her of our intentions, and we hope to work with the ministry to make this possible. We believe this matter is very urgent because the decision on quotas is imminent. In the last 8 months, we've already lost 5 of these super tuskers. From a population of, there are 2,000 elephants, of which only 10 remaining super tuskers are in that population. And of those 2,000 elephants which are in this area, 600 regularly cross the international border, so a significant proportion of them. And of those, about 200 are bulls. The recent renewal of hunting in this particular location is a threat for many reasons. It endangers the elephants and also jeopardizes the incredible body of knowledge that has been created from the 51 years of research that has taken place, which will impact on the future of research in the Amboseli Kilimanjaro region. It's also going to impact on the legacy of these elephants. Because, as Joyce said, this is a unique genetic population. You remove some of those bulls and they cannot pass on their genetics. We know that the bulls that are being hunted are breeding bulls. One of the bulls named, who was Gilgil, was only 35 years when he was shot earlier this year. Gilgil was not even yet in his prime. But according to the hunters, he was an old bull beyond breeding age, which means that the hunters themselves are not very well informed and they're making mistakes. The best scientists on this population are actually on the Kenyan side with the Amboseli Trust for Elephants. And we believe that we should go back to a mutual understanding and a respect for the information, the data. Gilgil is believed to be the son of an elephant whose name was Dionysus. Dionysus was still breeding at the age of 63. So we know that these bulls are still in their prime, and as Joyce says, as they grow older, they contribute more and more to the future generations. So we don't want any of these elephants to be hunted. This population of elephants has not only been the source of great research, but also a source of great training, including myself. Festus, I'm sure you did some training there. Most of Africa's top elephant conservationists did their training in Amboseli. So it really is a showcase of excellence in research and conservation. And the Kenya Wildlife Service has played a major role in making sure that this legacy is upheld. We're very concerned, though, that the Kenya government to date has not said anything. We have written repeatedly to the Kenya Wildlife Service, to the ministry, and we have been sharing information in the media, but we haven't had any feedback until now. And we're hoping that today, World Elephant Day, while the ministry is celebrating it in Meru, they will bring up this issue, because this is the time when the whole world can be focused on this issue. Another reason why this is so urgent is because the hunters are obviously after the biggest tuskers, and these are the biggest tuskers in Africa. So if you were a hunter and you knew that these licenses are about to be issued, you'd probably even prepay your safari to Tanzania to shoot one of these giants. So we know that they are at great risk because people are willing to spend a lot of money to come and get the largest tuskers in Africa. The reason why this has reached the point where we are calling on the presidents of Kenya and Tanzania to engage is because these elephants, as individuals, are not protected under any international convention. Populations of animals are protected, for example, under CITES for illegal trade, or international trade in their trophies, or under the Convention on Migratory Species, which protects animals that are migrating as species. But there is no convention that recognizes the really massive contribution that a few individual animals in that population are making. This is something quite unique, and perhaps it requires us to relook at some of our international conventions and find a way to ensure that we don't lose the most important individuals from that population who are carrying vital DNA. The removal of these elephants through hunting, the quotas for this year alone, could actually annihilate all of the big bulls. So we're looking at something that could be really devastating for the elephants of Amboseli and the Kilimanjaro landscape. Kenya and Tanzania are not enemies. We've worked with Tanzania for decades on cross-border matters, whether it's conservation and many other issues. We've worked with them on cross-border matters that Festus spoke about on wildlife crime. And both countries have been badly affected by the poaching, which came about as a result of the legal ivory trade between Southern Africa and China and Japan, which led to illegal killing of elephants across both countries. Both Kenya and Tanzania are still recovering from poaching in the past. So it's not like hunting is helping us to manage elephants. Both countries' elephant populations are depressed from historical numbers. So both countries need to protect their elephants. And finally, I just want to say, Kenya has always prided itself in being a country that is very conservation friendly. We are the safari destination. We're well known. We are a country that wins awards for our safari destinations in the country. We have a very strong wildlife authority. We've been protecting our wildlife for decades. We do a lot of science and research. We have universities that are dedicated to wildlife and conservation. And so it shouldn't be a surprise. It shouldn't come across as an attack from the conservation fraternity that we want to defend this population of elephants. In fact, we're doing what we've always done. We have stood apart in Africa as a country that defends nature. We have prohibited hunting, and we have always supported conservation together with the communities. And so what Tiasa said about this impact on the communities themselves, what she didn't tell you is when she went around interviewing many men, pastoralists, conservationists, tour guides, scientists, several of them broke down into tears because elephants that they know and they have grown up with have been hunted in Tanzania and will never see them again. And I think we sometimes forget the importance of these animals to the culture, the tradition, and the heritage of the people who live in that landscape. We are going to give you a link to a WeTransfer, which has several of these video clips that you guys can use because of the problem with the sound. But for now, I'd like to open it up for questions, or maybe Chris, you want to take over? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paula. We are moving into the questions and answer session. And so I would like to ask the speakers who've been here, starting with Dr. Paula yourself. Please move to the podium. Dr. Festus, please. Tiasa, kindly. And I don't know whether Dr. Paul will be able to do it from Zoom. Mike, you'll help us to have Dr. Paul as part of the panelists, even though she's remote. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I move the floor to you. Charity, you'll be circulating the mic. Charity is here. So we're just waiting to see any hands up, and then we can proceed. Charity, there's a hand. That's Victoria.
Thank you. My name is Victoria from Voice of America. Two questions from me. Why, in your perspective, do you think the Tanzanian government has broken the 30-year agreement and began to kill these animals? Do you perceive any interest from the executive? And what are they doing why are the hunters hunting these animals for what? What are they using them for?
Is that working?
Thank you.
Could I just answer that question? Okay.
Okay, so my name is William Abala. I'm a journalist by profession. My question revolves around, like communication, the aspect of there's a key population that, in terms of presentation that you made, and also the presentation that the data made, the aspect of communicating conventions. So I think there's also the aspect of journalists. So I want to also to understand like what is direct doing in terms of maybe building capacity communicators, for example, journalists. You talked about conventions, and we see the aspect of neglecting some of this. So journalists can communicate this. So what in terms of what are you doing in terms of just building capacity to journalists, and even on the aspect of data? When we can create data in communication, I think they can represent a story, and when you have some stories, people can relate with them. So what are we doing in terms of building capacity for communicators?
I'm going to take those two questions just because my memory is terrible. And I don't want to miss anything. So first, Victoria, the question was about why now, why have the Tanzanians changed the, or issued permits out there. The Tanzanians have always done hunting. They're not questioning that they're right, the right to manage their elephants the way they want to, but they had always agreed that this population was off limits. And for some reason, that has changed. We believe that the concession has changed hands. It's a new concessionaire who perhaps doesn't really care, doesn't understand, is not willing to adhere to the previous agreements, some of which were gentlemen's agreements, they were informal agreements. It's also to do with ethics of the various different, hunting companies. They aren't all in agreement that what is happening there is appropriate hunting, that in fact is damaging the name of hunting. You don't want to have that kind of stain on your record that hunting in Tanzania means you're going to take out elephants that are key individuals in research. Does the president have interest in this? I'm not aware of anything. I haven't seen anything. I certainly hope not. Thank you. On the question of what are we doing about building capacity, I would love to hear more from the fraternity of journalists what kind of capacity they need, because this information has been in the public domain for some time. Kenya has been hosting big international conventions. The United Nations Environment Programme is based here in Nairobi. There are already lots of trainings for journalists and reporters that are offered by various different organizations. We're happy to support and assist with information, but we are not a training organization in that respect, but we're happy to support and enable any journalist who is interested in this particular story or related stories. We're very happy to do that. As Wildlife Direct, we are very keen to educate the population of people, not just in Kenya, but across Africa. And we produce wildlife documentaries for that purpose. Secrets of the Elephants was a series we did with National Geographic and Disney. Wildlife Warriors is our own TV show, which is broadcast on domestic television. And Team Sayari is a children's show, also on wildlife, presented by children from 5 African countries. And that series is shown all across Africa. So we try and do as much as we can to create a consciousness among our people about wildlife and nature. But I do understand that journalists need a much deeper understanding, and we'll be happy to hear from you what you think we should be doing more. Thank
Thank you. Any other questions, please? Yes, there are two questions related to.
Okay, my name is William. I work on the daily newspaper. My question is about population. You mentioned about 10 elephants population and 5 kids. Can you confirm whether we are remaining with 5 or the 10 is what is remaining?
Okay, that's an easy one. So the population total is 2,000. Among the two super tuskers remaining are 10. 5 were killed already. So we are remaining 10. Remaining 10.
I'm quite wrong already. I think I have two questions. The first question is, there are plans to amend wildlife laws. Perhaps do you have plans to propose more protections of these plants more than it is? The second question is to what will happen if all those killed? What will happen to population dynamics?
Thanks a lot. And you asked what would happen if we lose the 10 to the population dynamics. Our focus is on the scientific importance of the individuals that have been killed, not the overall population. As a matter of fact, if you're just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elephants, the 5 may not say a lot from a scientific point of population, but we have lost a significant gene pool. These are the carriers of genes for the big tusks. And elephants live in polygamous families. So we'll end up seeing potentially fewer and fewer of these tuskers. The main threat is losing the gene pool, not the population dynamics.
Could I ask that Joyce answer that from in terms of the behavior and the impact on the social lives of the elephants?
So what have you done? Maybe to block those markets, maybe inviting those countries.
Let me be very clear. This is not poaching, and this is not about trade in tusks. We're talking about hunting. The reason why people hunt is not to sell the tusks, is to take them home, put them on the mantelpiece, and tell a big story to your friends over a glass of whiskey, how fantastic and strong you were, you killed that child in the land of Africa. This is not about trafficking of wildlife. These are legal, and these are licensed hunts that are being done in Tanzania.
Is it a sport?
It's a sport. It's called trophy hunting. Well, it's called a sport, but I don't know how you can call it a sport when the elephant is practically tame.
The reason, maybe I have especially from Tanzania, there are rumors that they're connected with the that's why.
Okay, thank you. I haven't heard those rumors, and I haven't seen any evidence of it. However, I do know that the European countries are very concerned about illegal ivory arriving, not just ivory, other trophies also coming into Europe. And there are some countries that are banning and blocking the arrival of those trophies. For example, the UK, I think yesterday issued a notice. They will not accept trophies. So this is a big deal. The reason why they don't want to accept trophies is because they're uncertain if these things are legitimate or not legitimate. And I think many countries should be questioning whether the trophies are legitimate or not, because there can be, as you can imagine, a lot of corruption in the hunting businesses, which is why I think some of the professional hunters are very concerned. When you see unethical behavior in hunting, it can amount to even more crime. So it's not something that we have been focusing on in this particular campaign. This campaign is about the Amboseli population across the border into West Kilimanjaro and Tanzania, and trying to stop the hunting. We don't want to interfere with anything else that Tanzania is doing in the other parts of the country.
Perhaps a strong question. And go to interviews, side interviews in Kenya. I take it that they are all. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the progress of this occasion and making time to listen to what Dr. Paul, yes, thank you very much. And we shall, if there's anybody who wants to take the interview, we shall do that here. So you feel free to move this area. We shall also have a consultation with the three speakers, just holding the banner that you were holding for. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And there's just in case you feel you can help us finish. Thank you. Thank you very much.